I'm Amelie. I attend Rockbridge High School and I work here in the Career Center during my baking independent study. For your Super Bowl snack, we're making pretzel bites just because they're pretty simple and a really great alternative to the hard processed pretzels that you might find in the store. And they're really good and pretty simple to make. So you're going to start with your yeast in a bowl and then you're going to add your water to that. And okay. And we're gonna wait for this to get really foamy. A lot of times when you're making yeasted breads like this and yeasted doughs, you can also add your sugar or honey in there because the yeast as an enzyme will act on that and feed on that, and that'll help it sort of activate in the bowl. So we're gonna then put our flour and salt right in there, and then we can start mixing that with our dough hook on about medium to low speed at first, and then we're gonna add our butter. Now that this is moistened a little bit, we have sort of like a shaggy dough going on in here. We can go ahead and add our butter. We don't want to add it too late into the mixing process because then the butter will kind of melt in the bowl and separate out from the dough, and we want it to all be incorporated. So just put that in there. So now I'm just kneading it by hand a little bit to get it to like a smoother texture that the dough hook couldn't quite reach in that bowl. And obviously, if you're making this at home, you can scale up the recipe however much you want, and then you can have as many as you want for your epic Super Bowl party.
This makes about a dozen to 12 to 20 pretzel bites, depending on how big you make them. You'll see that when I shape them. Yeah.
And then we're gonna put this back in our bowl. You can grease it if you want. It's probably fine if you don't. And then you're gonna cover it with plastic wrap and then proof that until it's like nearly double.
So my name's Sydney Bliss. I'm also an independent study here at the Career Center for Baking and Pastry. I'm going to show you guys how to shape your dough once it's proofed. So you want it to be about double in size and proof for about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on how warm your kitchen is. And then once you do that, you can take it out of the bowl. I like to kind of pat it into kind of a rectangle. It doesn't matter too much, but then I'm gonna cut 4 strips. You can use a knife, bench scraper if you have it is awesome, but just dividing up our dough. And if you want, you can scale it out to probably about ounce size pieces, but you don't have to. It just would make it a little more consistent. And then once you have these like rectangle logs, you are gonna just cut it into probably 1.5 inch wide pieces, but if they're a little inconsistent, that's okay. And at this point, you can roll them into little balls, or you can have these little squares that are kind of like pillows. And you're just gonna do a bunch of those. You can cut them however big or small you'd like. I like to, at this point, round them out just so that they're a little prettier, but the little pillow shape is pretty cute too. And if you want to round it out, you can just take a little piece in your hand and then you kind of make a C, and then you're just going to circle it in your hand a little because it doesn't have to be perfect, so you'll have a little ball like that. And then at this point, you're going to want to get about 4 cups of water boiling, and then you're going to do about 1/2 cup to 3/4 of a cup of baking soda. And this is just we're gonna just boil these guys. You boil them for about 30 seconds, and then you'll put them on a greased pan. So you can do parchment, or if you have a rubber silpat, that works great too. This recipe tends to stick, so you want to spray it and make sure it's coated in something just so that it doesn't.
What kinds of things do you guys usually make?
Right now we're both doing like a chocolate unit and kind of pastries to get ready for Valentine's Day. So you were seeing Amelie make some chocolate truffles. I made some last week. They're gonna be really good. They're kind of fun. It's kind of fun to work with the science behind the tempered chocolate. Amelie was explaining it to me because she knows a bit more. I've always kind of liked baking stuff, and then I started making stuff from scratch, and it kind of got me into it. And then everyone talks about this amazing culinary program, and so I got in sophomore year, but Amelie got in freshman year, so she's been in a little longer than me.
Yeah, I got into the culinary program my freshman year, which was super lucky because now I think after the meeting we have about anywhere from 300 to 500 students like putting this on their request form for classes every year. So I was pretty lucky to get it in my freshman year, which really opens up an opportunity for me to take advanced culinary classes every year and kind of get to this point where I can be recommended for an independent study. But yeah, just like growing up, I always saw my dad and my grandpa and my grandma, like my whole family cooks. So I was always like watching them cook, or like on a little step stool, like, wow, so that's how you make one fried egg. But like, I've grown a lot from this program, and I think it's really important that this is an opportunity that I was able to have, because now I have those skills to accomplish that dream that I had when I was little. So
yeah, that's awesome. Do you guys have a favorite thing to cook or bake?
I love breads. Breads, like pretzels like this, it's so fun. Bread is so satisfying.
We both made sourdough this year, which was new for us, so we had to kind of co-parent our sourdough starter, which we might have killed twice, but that's beside the point. It was really fun to just learn about different processes of bread, especially because like the ones that you hear about are mostly quick breads like these, where it's just like, oh, let it rise, but sourdough having like a
starter
real leaven that like
a lot more science.
Alive. Like you're feeding those yeast enzymes and they're growing because they're bacteria, and it's really interesting, and I think we both loved that.
So we've got our baking soda water solution boiling. You're gonna put a third to half depending on how big your pot is. Like this guy can probably fit half of my pretzel bites, and you're gonna put it in there for about 30 seconds. You wanna have whatever you're using to scoop it out of the water ready, and you wanna have your pan ready just so that you have something to put it on. So I'm gonna take about half of these guys, and you're gonna wanna carefully put them in the water. And then you can set a time, you can do like a stopwatch on your phone. I'm just gonna use my watch. And 30 seconds is about the magic number, because if you leave it in too little, it's not gonna boil enough, but if you leave it in there too long, sometimes it can absorb the baking soda taste, and that's when you get the really metallic, kind of like gross pretzels. If you ever had something that tastes really like metallic and baking soda-y, that means they boiled it too long. And that's even if you have too much baking soda in the water, can affect the taste. So that's about 30 seconds. And I'm just gonna take them and put them on my greased tray, and then we can start the next batch. And while that guy's boiling, if you did round them out, you want to just space them. I'm flipping them so that the rounded side is up, but just space them out pretty nicely. They don't need too much room. They're not going to grow a whole lot after this boiling process, but you just want to give them enough room to bake off. We've got and then I'm gonna scoot it this way. I'm like, I figured I would just do assembly lines. So at this point, you're just gonna space them out, make sure the pretty side is up. This guy can go there. And then if you wanna whisk a splash of water and 1 egg together, then you can get a egg wash. And then you're just gonna brush those with them. If at this point, if you wanna use like a knife, and you can like make a little slit on top, and that's gonna open it up like this. You can do that. You can make an X. You can make, because if you make an X, it'll look a little more like your traditional pretzel bun. You do not have to score it, but it just kind of adds a fun little. But if you want, you can take some sea salt, normal salt, whatever you'd like, and you can sprinkle some on top. Sharp knife works better. This is a scoring lame. If you have a convection oven, set it to like 375, 400. But if you're just normal, regular at-home oven, you'll want it at like 400 to 425, depending on how big these are. So if they're smaller, maybe lean towards 400. So with these guys, I would definitely do 400. If you have a little bigger, you can do 425. You just don't want them to cook too fast and get too dark and then be raw on the inside. So I'm gonna stick these guys in the oven for probably 10 to 12 minutes. And then they should be good. At this point, you can have some cheese dip with them. You can toss them in cinnamon and sugar. And I mean, they're pretty good by themselves. I've ate them plain and they're pretty good. So they're nice and soft on the inside with a slightly harder shell, which the boiling kind of helps achieve. So.
And we talked a lot about like resources and everything, opportunity, but I think the best part of culinary class is eating. So we do a lot of that.
This is like a normal pretzel recipe that you can make big pretzels with. Just I scaled it down and then just cut them smaller. So.
My favorite thing about the program is like just having the opportunity to come in outside of class hours and pretty much make whatever you want, learn whatever you want, and as long as you have the, like she was talking about, like the internal motivation telling you to do that, the chefs will help you in any way they want or in any way they can so that you can make what you want to make and have the skills that you want.
Obviously, independent study, it has been a blessing with all these free, like all these resources. I mean, this program is really a blessing. I was able, you can compete in Skills USA if you want, and it just gives you an opportunity to do stuff outside the kitchen. That like outside of school hours, and it's essentially like FBLA, DECA, HOSA. There's just a bunch of good programs at the Career Center that you can compete to earn scholarships and some other stuff. So that's one of my favorite things that the Career Center does, is that it like allows you to, you don't have to go to college and they teach you that. Like you can go to a trade school, you can be a CNA right out of high school. Like it's crazy what you can do at the Career Center.
Yeah, Cindy won nationals last year, and so she got a scholarship to the CIA, the Culinary Institute of America, and she's really excited to come.
Yeah, so I got first place in baking and pastry arts at the national level Skills USA competition. This is giving me the chance to go to culinary school. I might not be able to if I didn't win this scholarship.